right. All right. So we are live on streaming online. And so I will call this meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. First, Dr. Ricky Smith, are there any changes to the agenda? There are none. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Motion has been made by Director Jaimes and seconded by Director Searchmead, and we are working out the kinks with our microphone system. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll move to a choral vote. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. All right, motion passes and the agenda has been approved. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Lisa Burton for recognition and good news.
Okay, good evening, everybody. And I'll wait till we get our very brief presentation up on the screen. But I'm here, and once again, I have the honor to recognize today our veterans that are employed within our district in recognition of upcoming Veterans Day on November 11th. And one moment here. And unfortunately, the 15 veterans that are employed with the district were unable to make it tonight. They all had other commitments, but we will definitely I'll read off their names. Okay, so in honor of National Veterans Day, November 11th, and the service of our community members, we express our gratitude and appreciation for Tigard-Tualatin staff who have served and continue to serve their communities and country in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. And I will read our current employees. With the Air Force, Deanna Kronsup, Roberta Ryder, Robert Odell with our Transportation Department, Terry Weaver with Templeton Elementary, with the Army, Michael Collins, Creekside Community High School, Matthew Hamilton, Tualatin High School, Sandra Aramillo, Tigard High School, Kyle Mueller with Tigard High School, Nathan Stanley with Tualatin High School, and with the Coast Guard, Richard Salvoro, Hazelbrook Middle School, the Marine Corps, Bradley Baker, Tualatin High School, Mark Rodriguez, Tigard High School, Yolanda Braun with Metzger Elementary, Michael Clayton with our Transportation Department. And with the Navy, Cindy Pellicci with Tigard High School, Zach Cooper with Tigard High School. And we just really want to thank our staff and our community members who have served with the military across our district and in our community for their service, and many of them with their continued service. And then we have a resolution to read tonight. And which board member would like to read it? Uni? Okay, thank you.
I move to adopt Resolution 2122-09 to honor veterans and men and women currently serving in the armed forces of the United States of America as presented. The resolution of the Tigard-Tualatin School Board of Directors honoring veterans and men and women currently serving in the armed forces of the United States of America. Whereas the United States of America was founded on principles of liberty, opportunity, and justice for all, and as a nation, we have called upon men and women in uniform to protect our national security and to preserve our rights and freedoms. And whereas on Veterans Day, we recognize the men and women of our armed forces, past and present, who have valiantly defended these values throughout our nation's history. And whereas the Tigard-Tualatin School District is proud and honored to recognize the contributions of veterans and military members from our community and throughout the nation. And whereas veterans and military members from Tigard-Tualatin have served our country, state, and community with distinction to protect and defend our freedom and way of life. And whereas we are proud to honor those who have served, putting their lives at risk to preserve our independence. And whereas on veterans and military members, we honor today and every day throughout the year have provided the highest level of service to community and country. And whereas we owe a profound debt of gratitude to the veterans who left the comfort and safety of their homes and families to serve here and abroad to ensure the democracy we enjoy now continues into the future. And whereas the Tigard-Tualatin School District Board of Education proclaims November 11th, 2021 as a day of recognition of the valor, sacrifice, and service of veterans and military members from our community and around the world. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tigard-Tualatin School District Board of Education is hereby proud and honored to recognize all veterans and the men and women that are currently serving in our armed forces, in our community, and around the world, dated this first day of November 2021.
All right. The motion has been made by Vice Chair Lynn. And is there a second to the motion? And Director Zerschmied seconds the motion. Is there any further discussion on the motion from board members? Director Jaimes.
I'd just like to say thank you to all those that served our country, and thank you because we are here enjoying this freedom because of you.
Director Zerschmied.
And I just wanted to add, I'm sorry that none of our veteran school district staff could be here this evening, but their absence here does not make our thanks any less sincere or profound for them.
Yeah, the only piece that I would add is I know that this has been a challenging year for a lot of veterans with what's been going on with U.S. foreign policy. And, regardless of that situation, like Director Zerschmied said, our gratitude is the same, and that's the sacrifice that our veterans have offered for this country is sincerely appreciated by this school district. And I also just wanted to comment on the fact that a person who steps forward to volunteer in the armed forces, comes back, and then joins a school district is a true public servant. And for that, we are tremendously grateful as well. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we will move to a choral vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. And the motion passes. Great. Thank you very much, Lisa. We really appreciate it. All right. And with that, we will move into student representative reports. I will let our student representatives choose who goes first.
Did I do it? Oh, I did. Okay. Being November 1st, it is the first day for National Native American Heritage Month, as well as I would just like to recognize that. And then from what I've heard, conferences went well on Thursday and Friday last week. I didn't get to attend my conferences. I didn't set any up, but from the friends that I have that did go, they said that they went well. Class president voting also took place for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Football is playing against Roseburg right now in the first round of the playoffs, and the girls cross country team qualified for state. We had an extended second block schedule last week where classes watched a video on hate speech and then held a discussion on it, and that went well. I was in IB Modern World, which is like the top history class, so I probably got a skewed population, but from what I did get, people were participating in the discussion, and it was helpful. And then oh yeah, November 10th is the end of the first quarter for Tigard.
All right, for Tualatin, I would say that the short week last week was definitely greatly appreciated because I think students are really, really stressed with college applications that are due tonight and the fast approaching November 10th quarter grade or quarter, I guess, progress report. And conferences that happened on Thursday and Friday went well. I actually went to them and I really like the online format because you don't have to like sit there and stand in the line and worry about people like listening in. And I liked it. I had good conversations with all my teachers. And in the sports world, girls soccer played their first playoff game and they won. And the Wolves are now TRL district champs for football following their win against Tigard on Friday. And additionally, boys cross country made it to state and will compete on Saturday in Eugene. One more thing, Tualatin High School has this year's first Bob Ross night, which is where we watch Bob Ross and we paint. And it's great because it's really stress relieving and it's a fun time and everyone gets to walk around and look at people's art. And then following some frustration with like lack of transparency and stuff, students are excited for their winter formal / homecoming that is set to take place in January.
Bob Ross night, excellent.
Great.
Any questions or comments for our student representatives? All right. Thank you both very much. And then we'll move on to Superintendent and Board Communication, Dr. Ricky Smith.
Thank you, Patty. If you would pull up that very short slide deck, please. Thank you so much. First, again, I want to echo the words of this board in nothing but immense gratitude and thanks to all of our veterans. I have many in my own family, and I know the sacrifices that they've made and the sacrifices my family members have made. And then to continue to serve in this community means a great deal. And so thank you from all of us for that service. Obviously, thank you so much. And so with that, I also want to start with thanks this evening as well to our teachers and staff for all their work in holding the virtual fall conferences last Thursday and Friday. I will be updating the board with final parent conference attendance data once it becomes available. The academic dashboards are now posted and may be found under FAST links on the district homepage and each individual elementary and middle school homepage. Additionally, I want to say thank you to Vice Chair Lynn and to Director Hymes for their facilitation of the district's first Oversight Committee meeting last Monday. And I'm going to leave space for your comments as I'm certain that there's much you would like to share with the board about that evening. Congratulations also to all of our fall sports athletes for an outstanding season, and to Tualatin High School, who was crowned the Three Rivers Conference champion this past week. Late this afternoon, and this is a slide deck here, the reason I appreciate you indulging me with a short slide deck during my comments is that superintendents across the state received the following email from Oregon Department of Education Director Gill regarding the current Delta variant COVID-19 case status in Oregon, with a request of superintendents to share this information with our boards and communities. In that vein, I want to share the following from the ODE email. The recent decline in Delta variant COVID-19 cases has leveled off, and cases now appear to be increasing. While hospital beds occupied by people with COVID-19 have decreased significantly from their peak during this surge, they are still near levels from the fall/winter of 2020-21 surge and are straining healthcare staff capacity. In addition, people who put off getting care during the pandemic are now more severely ill and require hospitalization to recover for their straining hospital capacity. At this time in Oregon, community transmission remains very high in every county. No community is currently spared from the devastating effects of COVID-19. Masking and other mitigation efforts in K-12 schools have allowed Oregon's children to successfully return to full-time instruction this school year, despite a very high community transmission. Currently, approximately 20% of all cases in Oregon are pediatric, and children have become a significant driver of the current surge. Children can and do develop severe disease, thankfully at a much lower rate than adults. But more than 25% of all multi-system inflammatory syndrome, known as MIS-C cases reported to date in Oregon, were reported during the month of October. As we transition to colder weather, Gil asks, I'm asking for your help as school leaders. And so based on Director Gill's request, I'm briefly going to share the following slides provided by ODE as a link in this email this afternoon, as well as current Washington County data for you. And you should also have a copy of the email deck or the slide deck sent to you by email as well. Now, let's see if I can get this to go. Okay. So here we have the current Washington County data. And as you notice where that blue arrow is, you can see that we've been in a slow decline from this Delta surge since about end of September. However, now we start to see an uptick. The bar that is immediately to the very far right is just this week's starting count. So it is one not to be paid attention to until next week when we have the final numbers. You can see that it's been a fairly gradual decline, much more gradual than the one in last December and January. Clearly, it's taking a little time. And so I think the worry now is this particular upsurge. This is just Washington County numbers. Clackamas looks the same. Multnomah looks the same, as do other counties across the state. And so I'm just going to briefly pop through these slides, but in essence, what ODE is reaffirming is that the layered approach, or you heard me talk about it as the Swiss cheese, matters. And so things that we see here are that continue to be effective: vaccination, hand washing, physical distancing, use of masks indoors and out. Making sure that our ventilation system, which our team here has done an amazing job with. Our job now is to go back out and to continue to reinforce to our community and to our staff that these measures matter. Here again is just another slide showing the impact of multiple layers of mitigation, starting with vaccination, as well as masking, physical distancing, and so on. And it's just another variant of what you've seen before. Also, relative to student vaccination, this is the current timeline relative to the state rollout of the vaccines available for ages 5 through 11. In a meeting today with Washington County Public Health, every OHA's stance is going to be to urge parents first and foremost to go to their primary care or pediatric care provider for the vaccine. However, TTSD will be standing up, if necessary, locations for those clinics if parents wish to avail themselves of it. Currently, in the last communication to parents on Friday, there was a survey that was attached, and Director Rose is gathering that information as to how many might avail themselves of that opportunity if offered. And so we will wait to see what the needs are. So the call to action is basically not just in schools, but again, across our community. Please don't send your children to school if sick. Please limit the number of gatherings with individuals who are unvaccinated, particularly during the holidays as we come indoors. All the things that we have heard before so that we can mitigate this particular issue. And I'm looking here, a late insert from Tracy. That the survey, 71% reporting that they plan to get their 5 to 11-year-olds vaccinated, 81% reporting they will take their child to the family provider, 78% reporting they are interested in a school-based clinic, 25% reporting they will most likely wait to get their children vaccinated, and 34% indicating they are not interested in receiving the vaccine at this time. TTSD is committed to moving forward with the welcoming back of our volunteers into our schools, holding fall and winter concerts, plays, and indoor athletic events, as well as allowing our community youth sports and other after-school activities use of district facilities. But for this to happen, we will continue to require compliance with the district's public health and layered mitigation plan currently in place. And with that, Chair, I'm coming to the end of my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Any questions for Dr. Ricky Smith? All right, thank you, Dr. Sue. And with that, we'll move to board reports. Board members who would like to go first? Dr. Jaimes.
Thank you, Chair. As mentioned, November, we move into Native American Heritage Month. And with that, I'd like to start my report with a land acknowledgement that we used in the ISH committee. We acknowledge that we are gathered on ancestral lands of many tribal nations who made their home here and or traveled the Columbia River seasonally. The Confederate tribes of Warm Springs, the Umatilla, and the Yakima Nation have a strong relationship to this region, as do the Confederate tribes of the Siletz, the Confederate tribes of the Grand Ronde, and the Chinook tribe. In Tigard-Tualatin, we are situated on traditional Atfilati Kalapuya lands. These lands were taken by the federal government for settlers traveling the Oregon Trail long before they were legally ceded. First in the unratified Treaty of 1851, and then in the ratified Willamette Treaty of 1855. Much more can be learned from the K-12 curriculum written by local tribal leaders under Senate Bill 13, which we are implementing in our district. We solemnly reflect on the genocide and displacement of families and relatives. We commit ourselves to moving forward towards tribal sovereignty and reconciliation. We humbly look to the indigenous leadership and indigenous lands. In a community process, we solidified that commitment by making visible and known for future generations that we are on Kalapuya land through the naming of our early childhood center, Kalapuya, in the spring of 2021. This was shared from Dr. Julie Sparza Brown and was adapted by Rina Miyamoto from TTSD. So thank you for letting me say that. As was mentioned by Dr. Suriki Smith, we did have a great meeting for the first ISH committee. As much to my surprise, I was named the chair for the committee, so that was rather surprising. So thank you all for that. With that said, we did move into establishing some norms and reading over what the committee, reading over the responsibilities and what the committee is going to be about, and what our task or what our charge is for the committee. So that was one of the highlights of the week, but it was a very busy week because after that, we also met with Chair Bowman for the Financial Oversight Committee, which I'm sure he will talk more about that. I also had the pleasure of being a guest in the Latinx Parent Night for Quality, as well as Tigard High School. So they had a night where they were supposed to host several other members of the Latinx community, but unfortunately, it was the night when we were all having internet problems, and so they weren't able to make it. But I was there for some reason. I don't know. I think I was in Newburgh, so I was probably outside of the area. Then I also attended the COSA Administrators of Color meeting, and where I learned that they're working on trying to get the bill passed again that would make it so that boards would have to have some kind of classes or some training for cultural relevance training. And so I was pretty excited about that, especially with the situation that I'm in at Newburgh. Oh, sorry, I didn't say that. And then I went to Oregon Association for Bilingual Education meeting, where I'm part of the board there as well. We had an ambassadors meeting because our conference is coming up on June 7th and 8th. So January 7th and 8th. So save the date for that if you are interested in bilingual education as I am. And with that, I'll turn it over to Director Irvin.
Sure.
Well, I wasn't that busy this last few weeks, but I did go to the District Wellness Committee meeting a couple of weeks ago, and that was really wonderful just to kind of hear what's going on in terms of serving our teachers, our staff, our students, and families, really just the broader community in terms of wellness, both kind of defining what that means and really what that means to different people, and making sure that it's sort of that mental health as well as that physical kind of wellness and how that all really wraps around together. So that was really wonderful. And we're kind of at the beginning process of that and kind of looking at what we're going to do with some of that funding that we got for the equity money as well. So there was, so part of the equity funds and the extracurricular, what does it stand for? Zinnia and I both forgot. The EE, Extracurricular Equity Fund, right? EE, okay. And so kind of going through the process of how we look at the proposals that are coming in to use that money. So that was really exciting to kind of see what's going on in those two groups. And then I did go to a couple of cross-country meets. I even saw our own student representative run. So that was really fun. And they did an awesome job. And congratulations to the Tigard-Tualatin, the Tigard varsity girls for making state. That was really fun. So that's really all I have to report this time.
Vice Chair Lynn.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just a couple of updates on things that are happening. There's a lot going on. It's been a busy fall season. I want to just follow up on Director and now Chair of the East Committee's report. That the meeting was really excellent. We had a cross section of community members, students, TTSD staff, and then of course the two board members. And I felt really, and I felt, Dr. Sue, I have to give you credit for you and Director Un for really, I think, doing a wonderful job of helping people understand why a hate incident and bias committee is important. Hate speech and bias incident committee is important. And Dr. Sue, I think, spent a lot of time reviewing the law and helping people understand the policy side of things, which was incredible. My son is on the committee. He learned a lot about state policy development. Thank you. And again, the students, I talked with the students afterwards and they said it was a really good meeting. I learned a lot about why this is necessary. And I think everybody left the meeting feeling like the district has taken this issue very seriously and has a very, very well put together responsive process for dealing with issues of hate speech and bias. So thank you, Dr. Sue, and thank you to Director Un, who did a great job of facilitating sort of a very engaging conversation that involved people asking questions and talking to each other in groups and things like that. So it kept the students' attention. So congrats to Director Un. Also, I don't know if we had a chance to report on the strategic planning discussion we had at the work session the last time in October, but just to say that the RFP for the strategic plan is out. And we have an RFP out because we're seeking a facilitator who essentially is going to help facilitate discussions of the board and others who are part of the committee to help get us to that point of coming up with a really wonderful plan. We also agreed in the last work session meeting on a theory of action for the strategic plan that focuses on the district's mission around equity and so on, but that really focuses on creating an inclusive process. We also talked about ensuring that we have a wide swath of participation, city leaders, for example, students, parents, other community, members of the chamber, but also district staff, as well as board members. So it'll be a large group, but we felt that was important for that group to also be inclusive. And so once we have chosen a facilitator, which will happen in the next couple of weeks, I think Director Irvin, Dr. Sue, David, Director Moore, and I will be selecting the facilitator. And then once that is in place, we'll begin to solicit participation in the strategic planning committee. So we hope that you will participate if asked. And if you haven't been asked, you certainly can volunteer. We need as much engagement as we possibly can get. And that is all for me.
So Dr. Sue didn't mention, but she's also been doing Sit with Sue's early in the morning many times. And I've had the opportunity in the last couple of weeks to go to 2 of them with her. Last Tuesday at Hazelbrook, I heard from teachers a lot of concerns about the amount of time and effort it takes that they spend on COVID tracing. And it's very hard to get their teaching done in addition to all of the COVID management. And that was something echoed right back from the administration that, yeah, we're spending a lot of time on it too. So I just wanted to make sure that people are aware that we're taking this seriously. Everybody is spending a tremendous amount of time on COVID. The other thing I heard at Hazelbrook, which sort of surprised me, you may recall Hazelbrook is the middle school that now has a new schedule that the board approved last year. And I heard comments both in favor of that new schedule and also comments against it, that it wasn't working out as well as they had hoped. So it was kind of interesting. It was a mixed bag. The Tuesday before that, we were at Templeton, and their teachers, not surprisingly, were primarily interested in what the process for hiring their new principal is going to be and how much community and staff involvement in that process there will be. And of course, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. So if there are members of those communities who want to get involved, they should speak up. The policy committee met for the first time this year last Friday. So board members can start to look forward to seeing policy coming into the board packet in the coming months. I know you're all really excited about that. And then finally, tomorrow I meet with a group of student leaders from Tualatin High School. We're going to be organizing a series of meet with a board member, I don't know what we're going to call it, but events that'll be being held at Tualatin High School this year. And I'm really looking forward to it. And I will keep you all posted as to what, when we meet and what I hear from our great students at Tualatin High School. So.
A few board meetings ago, I remember we asked Dr. Sewer, like, so are these committees going to happen? It's clearly committee season. We've got a lot of committee meetings that are happening. So yeah, just a couple of additions. The policy committee did meet. There will be policies coming before the board. Thankfully, it will be less than the massive rewrite from last year, but there still will be a sizable number. So a big thank you to Director Ebert and Tara for organizing that process. And I think, and I hope policies will be in really good shape when they get to the board. So it should be relatively efficient. People can review ahead of time, and then we can have discussions as necessary. And many of these are, as you all probably already know, these come from the Oregon School Boards Association. So when state law passes and we have to shift policies, their lawyers will draft them, send them to us. And there's certain things that we get to customize as a board. And so that's what the policy committee does in our meeting. In terms of the financial oversight committee, another shout out there to Director Moore and Sarah for their work. That's where we hear from the district's financial advisors. They give a very detailed presentation about the status of the market and how our investments fit into that complex landscape. And then we also hear from our financial auditors, and no bad news to report from the Financial Oversight Committee, although our many investments across the market are slowing down a bit versus levels last year. So those were those two committees. I also was able to attend the Mental Health Matters presentation for the start of Red Ribbon Week, which we recognized at our previous board meeting. But it was awesome. It was completely student-led and really compelling. In fact, our student representative was highlighted in that Zoom meeting. So I thought it was awesome, and I wanted to thank Connie for her work in organizing that. And finally, I got to attend the Tigard-Tualatin football game, of which I was completely neutral, as I know all board members are in matters of athletic competitions. All right. With that, we have wrapped up superintendent and board communication. So we will move on to public comment. There's no public comment for agenda items, although I did just want to give a brief update. As folks probably know, public comment is something that the board chooses to do. This is not a requirement of state law. And so the executive committee has been playing with different models that allows us to complete our work at a reasonable time and a reasonable pace, but also maintains accessibility to the community. So what we will be doing this evening is public comment for agenda items now, which no one signed up for, as well as at the end of the meeting, we'll have a non-agenda item public comment as we've done previously. So that's going to be our model moving forward that we're testing out. And of course, folks are always welcome to email our emails, of which we get many. So moving on to report and discussions, we have one report and discussion item, and it is an early learning update with Dr. Lisa McCall. So Dr. Lisa, the floor is yours.
What about now? So good evening. Would like to thank Board Chair Bowman, Vice Chair Dr. Land, and board members and student reps. Tonight, our team will give you an overview of our preschool pre-K programs in TTSD and kind of give you a little update of what's been happening since the beginning of the school year. So just to tell you a little bit about our vision, this has been works in the progress for many years, but we want to make sure that everyone understands the work that we've have accomplished, and we know that we have 3 new board members. So we believe that social emotional learning and foundational literacy and math skills are the building blocks to a successful school experience. However, we also know that not all of our community's learners are able to access high quality early learning. And so our vision has always been that to close the opportunity gap and also to provide all young learners with the access to high quality education, which is culturally sustaining, as well as to prioritize children whose families who have been historically on the margin or underserved, which includes families navigating poverty, children with disabilities, and children who may have experienced limited additional educational opportunities, trauma, and other barriers. So our purpose is that we want to prepare preschool age children for success in kindergarten and beyond. We are a pre-K to 12 district, as well as provide social emotional learning, self-regulation skills, interpersonal skills, building empathy, as well as prioritize academic skills, which includes language development, literacy, and numeracy. Therefore, our goal is to, again, close those gaps, and we believe that we have a program in TTSD that is on the path to get the work done. Now, I'd like to introduce our team here for our early learning. So we have Christina Gertz. She is she's our early learning coordinator. And we have Carrie Hopkins, who is Christina used to be our early learning coordinator. Now she is the early learning manager. And new to TTSD is Carrie Hopkins, who is our early learning coordinator. And we have Veronica Collier, who is our early learning family resource coordinator. Now I'd like to turn it over to Christina to talk to us about how we coordinate our enrollment in TTSD.
And do you want to hand me that, and I'll go ahead and advance slides too? Thank you. Good evening. I want to offer here a quick snapshot of what we use as our universal tool to assist families in finding the right free public pre-K available to them in Tigard-Tualatin School District. We call this our free preschool program interest form. And whenever there is an inquiry from a family, our schools, our public libraries, our partners at DHS, and our other early learning partners are able to provide the family with this form. One page, they're able to simply provide some information to us that we receive and do all the sorting and eligibility finding and coordinating for the family in order to then have the free public pre-K reach back to the family and walk them through application and enrollment. Just well, that's one way to do it. So our significant free early learning partners include Northwest Regional ESD, who offer early childhood special education, and Community Action Contracting with Head Start in our region, Latino Network offering language and culturally specific instruction under Juntos Aprendemos, Together We Learn for preschool, and Erco, who offers a kindergarten transition program for immigrant and refugee families. So when we coordinate and do our work together, we maximize our capacities respectively and seat successfully most all of the families who have reached out to us requesting assistance with pre-K.
So we have a variety of programs and classrooms in TTSD. So looking at the map, you can see the 5 locations, Metzger Elementary, our new Calapoola Early Learning Center, Durham Elementary, which is home to the Tigard High preschool program, Tualatin Elementary, and then Byram, which is now home to the Tualatin High School program, as well as free public pre-K partners, namely Head Start. And these are the locations for their, currently some of the programs are virtual as well as in person at CFT, Durham, Calapoola, and Tualatin Elementary, and our Juntos Aprendemos locations, which are virtual at Bridgeport, CFT, Durham, Deer Creek, Metzger, Templeton, and Tualatin Elementary. And now we also have Erco's kindergarten transition program. Currently, they are providing virtual instruction. So where do our students come from? We have the 5 district pre-K classrooms with catchment areas, and you'll see here the enrollment to date for each of those programs. With the Preschool Promise at Calapoola, we have currently 19 students enrolled with the capacity for 20. Byram at Tualatin High School, which service students coming from Byram and Bridgeport, we have 14 with room to grow. And Durham with the enrollment of 31 with only a few slots available. Tualatin 29 and Metzger 24.
So we offer some highlights for you to take a look at. Most of our programs cap at 18 students in a classroom. So earlier when we were describing that we had a capacity at Metzger, for example, of 36, that's because they're home to an AM and a PM class. We serve primarily students who are age 4 by September 1, the year ahead of their kindergarten entry. Our one exception is our state Preschool Promise funded bilingual pre-K. We draw from all around the district to have families join us in this program, which meets for a full day. And we serve students as the state requests us to, who are ages 3 and 4. So that's a really fun classroom if you want to come and have some fun with us. And we're located at the Kalapuya Center for that class, just perfectly situated and now equipped for a full day program. Additionally, I want to highlight that we have expanded our capacity this year, and we use what have been our high school preschools as part of our early learning capacity and strategy to serve our whole community. So we describe them as Byram Pre-K inside Tualatin High and Durham Pre-K inside Tigard High. And with this expansion, we have hired 2 new licensed teachers who work on the pre-K side, but have this great capacity for partnership with the high school teachers who are offering the CTE instruction to the high school students. On Fridays, we have additional capacity across all our pre-K programming for all of our licensed teachers and IAs, because we have a lot of offering through our IAs as well, to come together in cohorts and go through our materials and offer some suggestions across our programming in the need to meet what our families are requesting or what our students are exhibiting as needs. And we've been very successful to date in working together as a cohort to bring new ideas and new approaches inside each of our inclusive classrooms. Also really exciting for us this year are new buses added to the TTSD fleet that are equipped specifically for these smaller bodies. They have 5-point harnesses and booster seats, so we are successfully transporting any and all families who've requested transportation as a means to access the free preschool that we offer. And this is a game changer for many families, so this is really quite exciting.
Can I ask a quick question? What do you have a ballpark range of what % of families are requesting transportation?
It's about 35% to date, and we're keeping distance on the little bus too.
That's great. Thank you very much.
So as you can see in this picture here, this is an image of our new playground at Kalapuya Early Learning Center, which opened its doors on September the 14th. And that again is home to our bilingual preschool promise classroom, as well as the 2 Head Start classrooms. One of the classrooms that is currently unoccupied will be available for Erco's kindergarten transition program. And we're hoping to have that, them open their doors for that classroom sometime this month in November, as well as home to our early learning team. It's been truly amazing to watch the transformation from first visiting the center to the naming of Kalapuya. And then the next slide, you'll see a little peek into the class, Miss Maria's classroom, where day 1 students were learning how to socialize, focusing on getting to know, building relationships. So again, it's been truly amazing. And Miss Maria and her team has every time I go there, I can't stop. I have to stop and visit that classroom. Next slide. Again, that is our team on the first day. With that, brings us to our report. End of our report. Are there any questions from the board?
Thank you all very much for being here this evening. Board members, do you have any questions? Director Jaimes.
Thank you for your report. This is amazing. I'm so excited to see the work that you guys are all, or that your friends are all doing. My question was, so the bilingual program, that's, I'm assuming, Spanish and English, correct? Okay. And how does that differentiate from the Latino Network Juntos Aprendemos program?
The Juntos Aprendemos program is largely a parent and child program where they come together once a week in typical times in person, and they meet together, parents, children, and teacher together for the first of 2 hours. And in the second hour in Juntos Aprendemos, they ask the parents to go into a separate room, and the kids stay with the pre-K teacher and do a unique activity and circle time together, while the parents have some different continuing parent education. So that program is hugely impactful and enormously successful because of the combination offered through parent education as well as preschool education. Our preschool promise funded bilingual program meets with students in a classroom for 6 hours a day, 4 days a week, offering $900 direct service hours, $900 direct service hours every year, much like kindergarten students receive every year. And we have family engagement at the core of the work we're doing with pre-K. And really, our Juntos partners do like a model job of that. And we use a lot of their work to reach out and be responsive to parents who are asking for some additional supports, but the model is very different.
And can you talk more a little bit about the Erco kindergarten transition program? And are we envisioning perhaps later down the road if we are going to have other immersion programs? I mean, like, bilingual Spanish and English makes sense because those are the two biggest languages in our districts. But will we ever have some programs geared towards our Pacific Islander students or something like that?
Excellent question. In fact, the mission of our Erco partners in Tigard-Tualatin is to be intentional and to reach specifically families from the Pacific Islands, though they are not exclusive to offering their kindergarten transition program to families who come from the Pacific Islands. And I know the last I contacted and talked with them, they had 7 families signed up for their virtual. It's hard to start virtually, but that's what they're doing. And 4 or 5 of those families, if I have the number correct, were from the Pacific Islands and from the different language groups. So they are conducting the programming right now in English with translation or additional assistance as necessary and as needed to do the work they're doing online. And they will grow that model as the program becomes known and can grow. And you ask if that's a vision we have someday. I sure would like to say yes to that, and to continue growing in partnership with culturally and linguistically specific programs.
And I'm sorry, one last question. What is your recruitment model for these programs? I mean, obviously the preschool promise is open to the whole district. So is that something where schools are recruiting? Is that something where you all are going to different organizations in recruiting, or how are we planning to grow the program as we move along?
That, if you don't mind, that is another thing that we are continuously growing and learning more and responding to. But yes, to the question, to the examples you offer, Preschool Promise is funded by the state and really managed at the county level by our partners at Early Learning Washington County, who run a marketing campaign around that. We have created our own localized flyers or blurbs and have shared those with our schools and families. We've targeted specific areas. You saw that we are fairly low enrolled around Byram and Bridgeport, though we know there's need. So we have done some local marketing around those areas. We are definitely in front of our elementary basic needs teams partners and talking with them regularly. Veronica Collier is a big part of our strategy in relation to our work with the basic needs team. So we are looking at every touch point as an opportunity to grow understanding of our pre-K program, but also continuously try to make easy for families or our school staff to supply someone that one-page pre-K program interest form as a means to move, forward in the enrollment process.
Director Irvin.
Well, that was helpful because two of my questions were just answered. So I will be quick and just say it is so exciting between the new curriculum that we talked about maybe a month ago, this partnership with these other programs and with the high school and high school students and with the transportation. I really just, it's exciting to see this holistic care and just educational model kind of wrap around our families and our young little kiddos, because I mean, any of us know that's going to make such a huge impact with just the families, not even just the students, but really those families and communities. So it's really so exciting to see all the work that you guys have been doing and starting to see that pay dividends right now.
Vice Chair Lynn.
Yes, I've had the pleasure of working to support the growth and development of early childhood education in different settings. And I'm also excited to see this happen. And again, just to reiterate what Director Irvin was saying about the transportation and just the accessibility. Early childhood education really makes a difference in the lives of families. And it certainly makes a difference in the life of that child. But I think the research has shown that it's really the whole family that's impacted by this. And so we're changing lives. And I'm just excited to see this happen. And I'm grateful to all of you for your leadership and for your efforts. Thank you.
My question is about, in graduate school, we had Professor Deborah Stipek come present, and she's like an early learning expert. And I remember she talked about preschool fade out and the phenomenon of seeing the investment in early learning, the benefits for early learning fading out over time. And so I'm curious, and I think what she mentioned was like alignment with curriculum and instruction, and having a tight handoff was the key there. So can you talk a little bit about what strategies we're using in TTSD to ensure there isn't preschool fade out over time and that we maintain those benefits for those kids?
I'll get started and then I'll turn it over to Christina because in her previous role, she was working alongside of all of our 10 elementary principals. And again, it is that alignment and calibration between not only preschool, but also kindergarten, so that the teachers know what to expect when they receive the preschool students and vice versa. But Christina, you want to share a little bit more about that work?
We want to look at every opportunity to make sure that we are evolving as a pre-K-12 district, but specifically that we have close connections pre-K grade 3. And to do that, we have looked at it from a curricular perspective, from a transition into kindergarten perspective, to try to make that transition as smooth and seamless for the families and students as possible, even though you saw that we have reconfigured what catchment means. We're going to come in from the 3 different elementary schools that are currently attending, say, at Tualatin Elementary, bring a representative from the 3 schools in to partner with parents to answer some questions and to make that transition as seamless as possible. And if we can do it, have our pre-Kers visit the kindergartens ahead. So it's sort of like a customized kindergarten orientation, if you will. So curricularly, through family engagement, and through just the processes of our systems moving forward, so that we are using similar language and routine in our classrooms that they'll hear as they move from kinder to first to second, et cetera. So we are pre-literacy. We're not expecting our 4-year-olds to come out reading textbooks, but a good number of them will be reading because they've been building a strong foundation of early literacy in our work. And we deliver it with play and with love and a lot of, moments that might look a little loud on the outside. And we're using all our senses and all those things. So some of the work we do, we'd love to see influence and have that grow inside the kindergarten classroom and the first grade classroom. So those are all works in progress.
That is awesome and excellent to hear. I took child services when I was in high school at Tualatin High School, and I remember the loud very much. My only other question was, I was looking at those numbers for Bridgeport Elementary, where we've got the low enrollment, and I'm wondering, I assume there's plenty of factors here with COVID and several other things, but do you, what are your thoughts on that? And is that a trend that we see potentially with that area of our community? And then also I'm wondering if private providers are providing an alternative that people are using that maybe we'll see those kids when they come to kindergarten, but they're not showing up now. What are you all thinking about those numbers?
If I may, I believe there are a number of answers to the question. And what I want to speak to specifically with one of our schools, Bridgeport, is that we know there is a lot of young families and a lot of need and interest in preschool services. Quite a good number of families from Bridgeport who do inquire about preschool qualify for Head Start preschool. So rather than seeing a lot of them populate our program, we do see a lot of them go and participate in Head Start program. But you'll also notice that there is the Juntos Aprendemos program for Bridgeport. And so I also want to have the opportunity to highlight that we offer and encourage that families double dip, that they can participate simultaneously in Head Start and Juntos, or TTSD pre-K and Juntos, and the same with the Erco kindergarten transition program. So it's yes, it's COVID, unfortunately. Yes, it could be a lack of childcare for the whole day that's having an impact on a family's ability to access part day or even full day. As we consider it full day, it's still not a full working day. And there are a lot of those factors that are really positively at play for families, unfortunately, at this time, at an increased number than we might typically see. But we have received, I don't know, Carrie, it's probably over 450 interest forms for the 21 school year. And that's grown a lot and exciting for us because we added capacity this year. But we're simply finding that a lot of families are opting not to take the opportunity for any number of those reasons.
That's really helpful context. Any other questions? Vice Chair Lynn.
Sorry, yeah, there are a couple of things that came up that I just had questions about. One was the connection between Head Start and kindergarten in terms of readiness. I've had 3 children, and I remember being surprised at how high the expectations were for kindergartners in terms of literacy and numeracy development, right? And relying very much on the partnership of Head Start. Oh, no, it wasn't Head Start, but a preschool to support our efforts to make sure that our children were ready. And so I'm curious about the link there, curriculum in terms of preparation. But then I'm also curious about Head Start and whether or not there are other opportunities for us to partner with Head Start.
Yeah. Yes. Before the pandemic, we had started a process with Head Start that we still need to pick up and run with, to be honest. But our Head Start partners are, through community action, serve 4 school districts. They would very much like to have a few, at least, of the curricular pieces be consistent across all those partnerships. So for example, for us, the one thing we were looking at intensely was our use of Hegarty's phonemic awareness, but knowing that phonemic awareness is such a wonderful building block for early literacy, and it's a relatively accessible curricular piece that can be applied without a lot of time during the day. So it's not taking and rescheduling a whole program. We felt it was an effective means to help our Head Start partners build that out so that we knew we'd have that one piece throughout all of our programs. And we were one of 2 PDs in when we were closed down in March of 2020. So with Head Start still running right now, much of their programming is virtual due to their short staff. We haven't been able to lift that back up and move forward. but the idea of partnership with them in developing stronger connection to our programs so that all of our kids hit kinder with a lot of similar skill sets and experiences is very much the work of what we're doing with all of our partners, in fact.
Thanks, Christina. No wonder she is our new early learning manager because of all the work that she's done across the years. But lastly, I'd just like to say that with our program, it's clear that we invest what we value. And since last year, when we came and present and said that we'd give an update, we can see those investments as you go into Calapooya, as you visit the CTE programs at the high schools. And so again, thank you for all of your support, and we will continue to preschool for all. Thank you.
All right. Well, on behalf of the board, thank you so much for being here tonight. That was an excellent presentation and great answers to our questions as well. So thank you. And your work is going to pay dividends for this district for many years to come. So thank you. With that, we'll move on to action items. We have one action item this evening. It is the Lifeworks Northwest contract approval, and our presenter will be Director David Moore.
Good evening, Chair Bowman and members of the board. This evening, we're asking the board to consider our annual approval of the contract with Lifeworks for mental health coordination services. And as a reminder, and then new information, background information for our newest members, we'll give a little bit of history before we hand it over to our program people next to me to give updates on the program related to mental health coordination. Tigard-Tualatin has had a relationship with Lifeworks since 2008. Between 2008 and 2012, the district entered into a contract or a grant program through Washington County. And Washington County actually subcontracted with Lifeworks. In 2012, we transitioned to a direct contractual relationship between the district and Lifeworks and continue to receive services in this area that have paid dividends. Lifeworks is actually located within the district and is the only mental health coordination services entity that can provide school-based mental health services. In addition, they provide continuity from year to year. If there's cases they're working on at the end of the school year, they can continue that work through the summer and through the next school year. And then one thing we did back in 2018 when the board adopted our public contracting manual update. Usually when you have a personal services contract that exceeds $50,000, you have to go through a competitive bidding process or procurement process. We built into our rules for the board to consider an exception related to this type of service. And that was due to the continuing relationship we've had with Lifeworks, an entity like Lifeworks, in addition to the proximity and the level of services we receive. So again, this provides the background for the services since 2008. And we're making a recommendation to, again, award an annual contract for up to $290,000 with Lifeworks. With that, I'm going to stop. We're fortunate to have our program experts, Director Kinch and Kathy Wilson-Fay.
Good evening, everybody. Evening board. I won't talk to you for very long because I want to hand it over to Kathy Wilson-Fay, but those of you that were part of the board last year remember us talking about program inventory and how we choose to invest funds. And so when Student Services did a program inventory around mental health, our behavior programs, our PBIS programs, and SEL programs, one of the things that one of the recommendations out of that process was to hire a mental health and wellness coordinator to fully understand and integrate our mental health services into our school system. Because at the time we had these different positions and programs that were somewhat compartmentalized. And so here is Kathy Wilson-Fay, who can tell you a little bit about her background and about what the grant that the Lifeworks contract pays for.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to be here this evening. I really appreciate it. I am a new employee to TTSD, and I'm very grateful to be in this community. I had 15 years prior in Hillsborough School District. My background is in mental health, so I, for that 15 years, enjoyed this kind of dovetailing of mental health knowledge of systems and diagnoses and treatment and follow-up in the school environment. I think that's a really rich partnership and combination. I am delighted to be in Tigard-Tualatin. There's so much here that's going so well and is so impressive. I too attended the Mental Health Matters last week, and wow, it was so inspiring to hear our young people so eloquently talk about what they're noticing around them. Mental health is, I think of it as a patchwork quilt when we're talking about providing mental health services to a large community like a school district with so many different needs, so many different cultural backgrounds, language preferences. And it's a challenging job that I feel like I'm just dipping my toes in to bring it all together into a unified vision. This work, though, with Lifeworks is a big piece of that. And even within this one contract, there are different aspects to it that I think cover a lot of ground as far as what students and families are needing in mental health. Mental health care coordination is an interesting model because the idea is that you bring mental health therapists, mental health professionals into this school environment, but they're not doing direct service. What they're doing is doing outreach to parents, doing research, brief mental health assessment, and then trying to help them make a good fit in a process that can be so confusing and frustrating for families to figure out who takes what insurance they have, who speaks the language that they need, what if they have transportation problems, how can they work that out? So that's the role of a care coordinator, the idea being they can serve more students if they're not doing direct service, but instead helping families and students connect to pretty great resources that we have already in this area. That doesn't work for every student and every family, but it's definitely a piece of this patchwork quilt. And then the other piece of this contract is 0.5 FTE in Tigard High School, a mental health therapist whose office is right across the hall from the counseling department, and she is able to do screening and consultation with the school counselors and mental health counseling right there. So she is doing direct service. So it's a nice combination of trying to fill all of those needs across the community. That is all I had to offer. Happy to take any questions.
I just wanted it more of a comment than a question, really. I just wanted to say how much I appreciate the relationship we've had with Lifeworks over the years. They've been an extraordinarily good partner with us. It was brought home to me even more so the other day when a friend of mine whose adult child is struggling with mental health issues was raving to me about how she finally got help for her son. And 3 layers deep into the conversation, she said it was with Lifeworks. And yeah, that made me feel like, okay, I know we're the right team. So do any of my fellow board members have questions? So I just wanted to, well, I was going to make a motion, but if you guys have questions, I won't make it. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, I also want to thank you for your work. I did have a couple of questions. You talked a little bit about sort of what would be provided, and as a new member, I'm less familiar with kind of how everything works, and so I guess I'd like maybe a little more breakdown in terms of how this plays out, what this looks like, in a typical school. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I think we're in business. Nice. So for care coordination, they do serve all of the schools in Tigard-Tualatin, K-12. They receive referrals of students from typically school counselors, though it doesn't necessarily have to always come from a school counselor, but it usually comes out of the work that a school counselor does, which is building that relationship with a parent, trying different things, getting to know what's working to help a child in the area of mental health and what isn't. And there's a point, I think, where there's that conversation of, have you thought about outside services? Or the parent says, my neighbor, their child is going to counseling and I'm kind of interested in that. How would I connect? And so that's the point where a school counselor would say, we have this great service in the district. They are mental health people whose job it is to really know the lay of the land when it comes to mental health services, to know who's out there, who's good, who sees kids, who takes what insurance. Would you be interested in that kind of help? And then if the parent says yes, that's a referral that's made directly to the care coordination program. And depending on language and capacity, it could go to different care coordinators who are part of the team. We do have 1.0 FTE who is bilingual Spanish and English, so it's a really nice fit if that's the need of the family. And then they meet with the family, they work with the family for a period of time to get them really good information and to help them as much as they need. Make that first call with them, which can be really daunting, or to call insurance, or to whatever those little pieces are. So that kind of case management role that can be really helpful, instead of just handing a parent a phone number, doing that, how's it going? And have you tried calling? And, oh, did that happen when you called? Here, let me make some ideas. So trying to reduce obstacles in any way possible.
Thank you very much. How would families find out about these services? And if a family is struggling, for example, with a child who has serious mental health, can they call to seek support? And the third piece to this is, how do we ensure that that doesn't then become part of like an academic or history that might impact them later on down the line or something?
Yes, families can self-refer. Typically, the easiest way, the message we send out is talk to your school counselor. That tends to be a comfortable first connection for a parent. It's a known quantity. But we've had parents directly call the care coordinator and say, hey, my cousin talked to you last week and I really want that same kind of information. So that's fine too. And then your second question, wondering about like labels from mental health, school records. As far as school records, care coordination referrals are not part of the CUME file. I think what goes in there is a really generic one pager that says the student was referred to care coordination, but no other sensitive information. Is that your question? Okay.
Director James.
I just want to say, when I was a community liaison here at the district, and as well as a teacher, Lifeworks was amazing, and they are definitely a great partner. And like you said, having the care coordinators just available to us when right after conferences, when we get to know a little bit more of the family life and a little bit more of what their needs are. And we were able to just go to our counselors and be like, hey, this family needs this family needs that, and the care coordinators are there right away and talking to the family. So this is one of the services that I think is invaluable to TTSD, and I know that the FPAs now, and like the center where Veronica is employed at, they partner with you all, and this is an amazing program. So thank you for everything that you do for our families.
Director Irvin.
Just a very quick thank you, and really just focusing on what a great advocacy piece this is for our students and our families to feel like they have someone to kind of walk through so many of these processes and systems that are really unfamiliar, and you're scared and you want your kiddo to be okay, or you're the kiddo and you want to feel okay. So to really have someone that really truly feels like that personal advocate for you, I think is really invaluable, especially when we're working with mental health. So very exciting. Just wanted to say thank you.
I'll echo my board members, my board colleagues' comments, and also say thank you for choosing to work in TTSD. We are grateful to have you here. There was Axios is my favorite media company. They did a deep dive over the weekend on, they called America's mental health crisis a shadow epidemic. And there's some childhood specific data that really was alarming to me. The context of the whole report is basically saying staff is burnt out, there's shortages in the industry, it's harder for people to access these services. And then it talks about how the impacts are disproportionately being felt by the youngest people in our society. 51% of young adults reported symptoms of anxiety and depressive disorder. And so I guess I'm curious, locally in our region, in our area, are we seeing those same challenges? And I talked to a parent of a kid in Portland Public Schools who quite literally couldn't get an appointment with a mental health provider until January. So I'm curious, how does that impact us in TTSD, and what does that look like?
The short answer is yes. That is something we're experiencing locally. I'm hearing it really across the board for children with Medicaid, OHP, also with kids who have that commercial insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, those types of things. It's never been butterflies and roses when it comes to counseling capacity. I feel like we always kind of start the year with a lot of capacity, but we round the corner into January, and then for sure by spring break, it's always just filled up. Really difficult to find a therapist who's taking new clients. So it is something we really struggle with in Washington County. I know I have the opportunity monthly to meet with mental health folks in schools in whatever capacity once a month, coordinated by Washington County Behavioral Health. And we go through the roles, we go down the menu of all of the agencies offering those services to kids and families. And it's definitely always the story that things fill and fill and fill. So what that means for Tigard-Tualatin is I think we need to even be more creative than we have been in the past, which is a tall order because we want to have quality services. We really, I think that's one of the things I appreciate about Lifeworks is they really hold as priority that quality of service, and they really resist cutting corners in order to get the quick fix or get the quick hire or get the, to say that they're offering this many therapists, even though that might not be the stellar quality that we hope for. So Lifeworks does not do that. They're really careful about that. And I don't know if I have a clear answer, but I definitely nod my head at the description of the problem.
No, that's really helpful. And I found it really timely that we're evaluating this contract in a time where the services that are being provided to us in terms of coordination is so important. So thank you for being here to present. So with that, colleagues, is there a motion? Director Irvin?
Since I have the closest working microphone, I move to approve a contract with Lifeworks Northwest for mental health coordination services in an amount not to exceed $290,000.
Motion's been made by Director Irvin and seconded by Director Zerschmied. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we will move to a choral vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you again very much for being here and presenting. And I also wanted to give a shout out and thanks to Patty Roberts, our board secretary, for being in communication with our public commenters. We do not have any public commenters this evening. So with that, we've reached the end of our agenda and the meeting is adjourned at 7:50.